So here's a number for you. 2,200. That's the entire population of the town where a World Cup winner, a Champions League winner, and a Premier League treble winner grew up. Not the size of his youth academy, not the size of his school, the size of the whole town. And somewhere in that tiny farming community in the middle of Argentina, teammates and rivals started calling a 5-year-old boy La Araña, which in English means the spider, because they generally could not get the ball off him, no matter how hard they tried. That nickname followed him everywhere. Manchester City, the World Cup final, now Atletico Madrid. But here's the part almost nobody knows. The real reason he's called Spider-Man has almost nothing to do with football at all, and it starts back when he was barely old enough to walk onto a pitch. Julián Álvarez was born on the 31st of January 2000 in Calchín, a small agricultural town in Córdoba province built largely by Spanish and Italian immigrants. His father, Gustavo, drove trucks for a local grain company. His mother, Mariana, worked as a kindergarten teacher. He was the youngest of 3 brothers, and from the age of 2, he'd tag along with his older siblings to the local football school, chasing a ball that was practically bigger than he was. When his teachers at primary school asked him what he wanted to be when he grew up, the answer never changed: a footballer. And that's exactly where the nickname started, not on some big stage, in games of tag and hide and seek with the other kids in Calchín. He seemed to be everywhere at once, slipping away from anyone trying to catch him, appearing to have more arms and legs than he actually did. The other kids would shout and call him Spider, and at the time he was 4 years old. By age 11, word about the kid from Calchín had spread far enough that Real Madrid invited him to Spain for a trial. He played 5 games in the youth tournament and scored twice, including an assist in the final win over Real Betis. For a moment, it looked like an 11-year-old from a town of 2,200 people was about to sign for the biggest club on the planet. But it didn't happen. Real Madrid's own policy at the time required players to be at least 13 before they signed anyone from overseas, and it would have meant his entire family relocating to Spain. So Julián flew home to Calchín. He tried with Boca Juniors. Then he tried with Argentinos Juniors, but nothing stuck. There were people in Argentine football who genuinely believed he had missed his window, that he was already too old to make it. But that rejection in Madrid would end up being the best thing that ever happened to him, because it sent him straight into the hands of the club that would actually build him. In 2016, a River Plate Academy coordinator named Gabriel Rodriguez called Julián's father. Gustavo picked up the phone from inside his truck. Rodriguez introduced himself, said he'd seen Julián play, and thought he had real potential. But there was just one problem. He hadn't actually seen him play. He'd only heard from him from other scouts. But he lied on the spot to get the family to say yes to a trial, and it worked. Julián arrived at River Plate's academy, and within 10 minutes of the trial starting, Rodriguez had already made his decision. He was in. 3 years later, in October 2018, an 18-year-old Julián Álvarez made his first team debut for River Plate under manager Marcelo Gallardo. He spent his first 6 months on the fringes of the squad, in and out of the matchday squad, learning the demands of a first-team environment. He didn't need long to be molded. He was part of the River Plate squad that beat city rivals Boca Juniors in the 2018 Copa Libertadores final, played in Madrid of all places, the same city that had once decided he wasn't quite ready. By 2021, he had become the Argentine Primera Division's top scorer with 18 goals, been named South American Footballer of the Year, and helped River Plate to the league title as well. The boy Real Madrid had turned away was now the best young player on an entire continent, and every major European club knew it. In January 2022, Manchester City signed Julián Álvarez from River Plate for a fee that, looking back now, is almost embarrassing: £14 million, around 21 million euros. He was immediately loaned straight back to River Plate to finish out the season before officially arriving in England that summer. Pep Guardiola had just paid a bargain price for a player nobody outside of South America had really clocked yet, and City knew exactly what they were getting even if the rest of the football world hadn't caught up. But that wasn't even the strangest part of what came next, because just months after arriving at City, Julián Álvarez was on a plane to Qatar for the World Cup, and he wasn't even a guaranteed starter. Lautaro Martinez was ahead of him in the pecking order. Argentina's opening game ended in a shock defeat to Saudi Arabia, and it looked, for a moment, like the World Cup would pass Julián Álvarez by entirely. But it didn't. After coming off the bench in the win over Mexico, Álvarez was given his first start against Poland in the third group game, and he scored, and he never looked back after that. A goal against Australia in the round 16, and then in the semifinal against Croatia, one of the great individual World Cup performances. Álvarez scored twice, the first a driving run from inside his own half, the second a long-range finish set up by Lionel Messi himself. Argentina won 3-0. After the game, Messi said this about him: "He deserves this." 3 words from the greatest player of his generation. By the time that final whistle blew, Julián Álvarez had 4 goals in the tournament, second only to Messi on his own team, and a World Cup winner's medal at just 22 years old. The kid Real Madrid turned away as too young was now a world champion. And here's where that nickname finally caught up with him publicly. In an interview with Manchester City in July 2022, Julián's brother Rafael and his father explained the real story behind La Araña to the world for the first time. It wasn't a marketing invention, it was just a nickname built for Instagram. It came from opposing kids in rival towns near Calchín asking before matches even started, "Does a little spider play today?" Julián himself said it simply: "They called me that since I was 4. Not long after, he started celebrating goals by flinging his arms out wide, mimicking Spider-Man's web shooting pose, turning a childhood nickname into a signature. At Manchester City, Álvarez won the treble in the 2022-23 season, which includes the Premier League, the FA Cup, and the Champions League, all in one season. Across 2.5 years in England, he made 103 appearances, scored 36 goals, and set up 19 more, becoming one of the most efficient forwards in Europe. But there was a problem. He was still playing behind Erling Haaland, still coming off the bench in the biggest games, still City's best kept secret rather than City's main man. So, in August 2024, Álvarez left, in a deal that made him Manchester City's record sale, somewhere between 75 and 95 million euros depending on how the add-ons landed. It was a staggering return on that £14 million fee from 2.5 years earlier. His destination was Atletico Madrid, reuniting him with the club culture and demanding the style of Diego Simeone, an Argentine himself with deep River Plate connections of his own. Álvarez signed a 6-year contract and put on the number 19 shirt. On his way out, he told City's website, "Today, I say goodbye to this amazing club, with a lot of emotion. In Madrid, there would be no Haaland ahead of him in the pecking order, no coming off the bench to make up the numbers. He wasn't a backup option anymore. He was a main man, and everyone at his club knew it." And that brings us to this summer. At the 2026 World Cup, now Argentina's undisputed number 9, Álvarez scored a stunning extra time strike against Switzerland in the quarterfinals, sending Argentina through to face England in the semis. Argentina made the final again, chasing back-to-back World Cup titles for the first time since Brazil in the 1960s. But in New York, Spain proved too strong, winning 1-0 in extra time through a Ferran Torres goal, ending Argentina's title defense and, in all likelihood, Lionel Messi's final World Cup appearance. It was a big heartbreak on the biggest stage there is. But think about where this story actually started. A boy in a town of 2,200 people, turned away by Real Madrid at 11 years old, signed by a lie that turned out to be true, nicknamed after a superhero before he'd even started school. Julián Álvarez has already won a World Cup, a Champions League, a Premier League treble, and 2 Copa Americas, and he's still only 26. Whatever happens next for Argentina's own Spider-Man, one thing is certain: this story isn't finished being written yet.